Ferrari's energy management software is being rewritten from scratch, and Lewis Hamilton is the reason why. After losing 4/10 on a single straight at Suzuka because his own car's power delivery code failed him, Hamilton walked into the Ferrari engine group, sat with the software engineers, and helped build the fix himself. He then tested it in the Maranello simulator, drove the updated car at Monza behind closed garage doors, and posted the fastest time of the day. What nobody knew at the time was that the early data from that Monza session has beaten even Ferrari's own hopes, and Miami is 7 days away. The software that failed Hamilton at Suzuka is a self-learning system. It sits between the battery and the electric motor, deciding in real time how much energy to send to the wheels on every straight and how hard to recover energy under braking. It adapts lap by lap, reading the driver's inputs, learning the throttle patterns, the braking points, the steering angles, and changing its power delivery plan to match. The system is ridiculously complex. Hamilton needed 7 separate meetings in a single day just to understand how it works. Once you finish a lap, it learns the way you are driving and rewrites its plan for the next one. That learning system is supposed to be a strength. At Suzuka, it became the single biggest weakness on the car. In qualifying 3, Hamilton was on a fast lap, up on Leclerc through the first 2 sectors. The car was hooked up. Then he caught a snap of oversteer heading toward the back straight. A half-second correction, the kind of thing every driver does many times per session. The software read that correction as a change in driving style. It rewrote the power delivery plan for the rest of the lap. Hamilton lost 2.5 on the back straight alone. Not because the battery was empty, not because the engine lost power, because the software changed its own plan based on one steering input. This pattern of qualifying 3 drop-offs is not just a Suzuka problem. At every race so far this season, Ferrari looks fast in qualifying 1 and qualifying 2, when drivers manage their energy over single laps with less push. In qualifying 3, when every team unlocks full power modes and pushes the battery to its limit, Ferrari fades. The car that looked like a front-row threat in qualifying 2 suddenly loses 3 or 4/10 on the straights in the final session. The pattern points straight to the energy management software running out of stored energy before rivals do. And the Suzuka qualifying 3 moment is the clearest example of a problem that has been there since the opening round in Melbourne. Hamilton was blunt about it afterwards. He was up on Leclerc and then lost 2.5 down the back straight because one snap of oversteer changed the whole algorithm. In his words, it should be like you catch it and you keep going. Instead, the software panicked. That qualifying 3 failure shows the core problem Ferrari's new software needs to fix. The code is too jumpy, too quick to rewrite its entire power delivery plan based on small driving changes, too fragile for the reality of racing, where drivers catch slides, correct oversteer, and change braking points many times per lap based on tire state, fuel load, and traffic. To understand why this matters so much under the 2026 rules, you need to understand what superclipping actually feels like from inside the cockpit. The electric motor now provides roughly half the car's total power. When the battery runs low toward the end of a straight, the system starts pulling energy back from the rear axle while the driver is still flat on the throttle. The car is trying to speed up and recharge at the same time. The result is a feeling of power fading, almost as if someone is gently pressing the brake while the driver pushes the gas to the floor. Hamilton put it simply after Friday practice at Suzuka. You arrive in some places and you are kind of coasting in because you have got no power. 4/10 lost on the straight into turn 1 compared to McLaren. On a single straight. That is not a small gap. 4/10 on one straight adds up to a full second per lap when it happens across several speed zones, and at Suzuka, it happened on every straight. The race proved the pattern. Hamilton was running 3rd early on. The car felt alive through the corners, through the S's, through Degner, through 130R. The SF26 carried speed that matched or beat anything on the grid. And then, on every straight, the power faded. He dropped from 3rd to 6th over the course of the Grand Prix, watching places slip away in spots where the software should have been giving him full power. After the race, Hamilton called it pretty terrible. He ran as high as 3rd and went backwards. The worst part was that Leclerc, in the same car with the same engine and the same fuel, had more power than he did. Same hardware, different software behavior. The code was reading their driving styles differently, and Hamilton's natural inputs were making the software hold back energy on every straight. Ferrari knows it has a straight line problem. The team has said publicly that it needs to work on it. The car that corners better than anything on the grid is being held back by the software that controls its power delivery. That is the problem. Now, here is what Ferrari is doing about it. Ferrari's response is a full rebuild of the energy management code. The team is building deeply revised software for how it manages electric charge, charging plans, and the use of stored energy. New code built to stop the SF26's real speed from being badly hurt by superclipping. The engine group and electronics group inside Maranello are working flat out to get a real track test of the new code done before the race in Florida. The changes target 4 areas, and each one answers a failure that has shown up on track this season. First, rewritten power delivery timing that stops the battery from draining before the end of long straights. The old software was emptying the battery too early in the straight, forcing the car into a recovery mode at full throttle, where the electric motor actually works against the drivetrain while recharging. The driver feels this as a sudden loss of speed. The new code is built to spread the available energy across the full length of the straight, so the battery reaches the braking zone with just enough charge left to avoid that power fade. The gap between getting this right and getting it wrong is measured in tenths per straight, and across a full lap with several straights, it adds up to a big chunk of time. Second, better energy recovery. The car gets energy back under braking and also at full throttle through the rear axle, and the software controls how hard it does both. Harder recovery gets more energy per lap, which means more power on the next straight, but it comes with a drag cost that slows the car during the recovery phase. The new code gets more energy back while handling that drag trade-off more smartly, recovering harder in phases where the speed cost is lowest and easing off where it costs the most time. Third, a more steady lap-by-lap learning model. This is the direct answer to what happened in qualifying 3 at Suzuka. The old code updated its picture of the driver's style after every single lap and could be thrown off by one odd event mid-lap. The new version needs a lasting pattern change across several laps before it changes the power delivery plan, making it far harder to throw off with a single moment like an oversteer snap or a late brake to defend a spot. The code still learns and adapts, but it no longer panics. Fourth, changed battery charge management to stop the safety modes that triggered power cuts at earlier races. When the battery charge drops below a safety line, the system cuts power on its own to protect the cells from damage. The old software triggered these safety modes too early, cutting power before the battery was truly at risk. The new software pushes the usable range higher before the safety cut kicks in, giving drivers more power per lap without hurting battery life across a full race. Ferrari has not confirmed any of this publicly. No press release, no official comment. The details come from Italian motorsport reporting and have been picked up across the Formula One media. That is worth noting, because the claims are specific and testable. Miami will either prove or disprove the reporting. Hamilton's role in the fix goes deeper than giving feedback through a race engineer. Between races, he met directly with Enrico Gualtieri's power unit team. Gualtieri is the technical head in charge of every part of the 067/6 power unit. The same group recently hired Maxime Martinez, a former Mercedes powertrain control engineer who used to work in Nissan's Formula E energy management program. Martinez was brought in for power delivery software work, placed inside the power unit team under Gualtieri. Think about that for a second. A former Mercedes energy specialist, now working alongside the driver who spent 12 years at Mercedes, building up more data on hybrid power delivery than any other driver in Formula One history. Hamilton knows what good energy management feels like from the cockpit. Martinez knows how to build it from the engineering side. That overlap is not by chance. It is a focused grouping of knowledge on exactly the problem Suzuka exposed. Hamilton also gave himself to long simulator sessions at Maranello. Both he and Leclerc ran simulator work in the days around the Monza filming day, putting the new code through every scenario the engineering team could model. Different tyre types, different fuel loads, different track temperatures, different driving styles, changed on purpose to push the code and see if it could adapt without breaking down the way it did at Suzuka. The simulator work went beyond normal testing. The engineering team needed to understand how the new code responds to the exact driving inputs that broke the old version. That means Hamilton had to copy the conditions that caused the failure at Suzuka on purpose. Catch oversteer mid-corner, change braking points without warning, change the throttle feel on corner exit. Each of these inputs checks whether the new learning model holds its power delivery plan or falls back into the old pattern of overreacting. The simulator allows hundreds of these checks in a single day across many track layouts, creating data that would take weeks to gather on a real track. Hamilton has never liked the simulator. He has been open about wanting real track time and real forces over virtual laps. The fact that he gave this much time to sim work, coming back to Maranello again and again through April, on top of the engineering meetings, and the direct work with Gualtieri's group, shows how deeply he wants to fix this problem. This is not a driver waiting for the engineers to hand him a fix. This is a driver who spotted the failure, helped set out what the fix needed to do, and then tested the result himself in the simulator before signing off on the real-world test at Monza. The real track test happened at Monza on April 22nd. Garage doors shut, no media allowed, no driver quotes released. Leclerc drove the morning session, Hamilton took the afternoon. Both shared the maximum 200 kilometers, roughly 34 laps, set by the tyre rules for filming days. Monza was chosen for a reason. It is roughly 2/3 full throttle, the longest straights on the calendar, the heaviest braking zones, the least chance for energy recovery through corners, compared to tracks like Barcelona or Silverstone. If your battery is going to run dry before the end of a straight, Monza is the track that shows it first. If your power delivery software gets through a full session at Monza without super clipping, it works anywhere. Ferrari loaded the car with the full Miami upgrade package underneath the new software. New floor. The updated reverse-shaped Macarena rear wing, worth 8 to 10 kilometers per hour in straight-line trim. New front wing shape, cleaned-up halo wings, lighter parts, Miami cooling setup. And the key piece, the rewritten energy management code sitting on top of all that hardware, controlling how every bit of battery energy reaches the rear wheels. Hamilton posted a 1-minute 26.585. Fastest of the day. No press conference, no comments, just the time and the closed doors. Early Monza data has beaten what Ferrari expected. That is encouraging, but filming day conditions are controlled. Show tyres, not race rubber. No traffic, no fuel plans. No tyre wear over a full stint. Beating hopes in that setting proves the code works as planned on a real car. It does not prove the software holds under true race stress. The distance between a clean filming day run and a 57-lap Grand Prix in 35-degree heat with 10 cars fighting around you is huge. The Monza data tells Ferrari the code is ready for Miami. Miami will tell Ferrari whether the code is ready for a title fight. If you have been following this channel, you know we already covered the Monza filming day and the physical upgrades on the car. Subscribe if you have not, because the software story underneath the hardware is what actually decides whether Ferrari can fight for wins at Miami and beyond. And the timing of the Monza test matters on its own. 2 days before Ferrari's filming day, on April 20th, the FIA voted to change the 2026 energy management rules. The qualifying recharge limit dropped from 8 megajoules to 7. The Superclip MGUK power ceiling went up from 250 kilowatts to 350. A new 150 kilowatt race boost cap came in. These changes directly affect how every power delivery system on the grid works. Ferrari had 48 hours to fit those new numbers into the software they planned to test at Monza. The fact that they ran on time, with no delay, tells you either the code was built to handle rule changes quickly or the engineering team worked through the night to update every power map. The urgency is clear. Ferrari used a 5-week gap between the Japanese Grand Prix and Miami to run test days at Mugello, Pirelli tyre work at Fiorano, simulator sessions through all of April, and this key filming day. 5 test sessions across 3 different tracks, plus non-stop simulator work at Maranello in the space of 24 days. That is not a team making small tweaks. That is a team rewriting core code on a deadline. Miami on May 3rd is where the real test happens, and the problems are tied to both the track and the conditions. The Miami track mixes long straights with tight, slow corners and heavy braking zones. The layout creates a tough energy management test. The straights are long enough to drain the battery if power delivery timing is even slightly off, and the slow corners create less braking energy recovery than the high-speed sweeps at tracks like Silverstone or Suzuka. The code needs to handle a tighter energy budget per lap than at many other tracks on the calendar. Air temperatures in Florida in May push cooling needs to the limit. Track surface temperatures regularly go past 50 degrees Celsius during afternoon sessions. That heat directly affects how much energy the battery can store and send out safely, because the battery cells lose output and trigger safety modes as their temperature rises. A software package that works perfectly in cool April air at Monza may act very differently when the car is running at peak heat under the Miami sun. Battery heat management becomes a separate problem layered on top of the power delivery code, and any safety mode triggered by too much cell heat could bring back exactly the kind of power fade Hamilton felt at Suzuka. The engineering team can model these heat conditions in the simulator, and almost certainly did during the Maranello sessions, but the match between simulated heat and real-world heat is never perfect. Then there is the race itself. Safety car restarts demand instant full power after periods of slow running, when battery temperature and charge state are hard to predict. The code needs to snap from a saving mode into full attack within 1 lap. Close racing needs the software to handle sudden throttle lifts and reapplied gas draft effects that change the car's speed, shape and blocking moves, that shift the driver's line through corners without rewriting the power. Delivery plan. The way the old software did when Hamilton caught oversteer at Suzuka. Tyre wear changes braking points bit by bit across a stint, meaning the energy recovery zones shift all the time over 20 or 30 laps. The code needs to track those shifting zones in real time and adapt smoothly rather than overreacting. Under the new 2026 active aero rules, straight line speed depends on the timing of the wing mode, switch between corner mode and straight mode. The power delivery software needs to match battery output with that wing chain. If peak electric power goes out while the wing is still in corner mode, the energy pushes against higher drag and is partly wasted. If it comes too late after the wing switches, the car loses time at the start of the straight. The timing window is measured in hundredths of a second, and the new code needs to hit it right across 57 race laps with changing fuel loads and tyre grip levels. All of this is why the simulator work matters as much as the Monza laps. The simulator can model Miami's heat, Miami's corners, Miami's safety car moments, and Miami's tyre wear in ways that a 34-lap filming day on show tyres cannot. Hamilton and Leclerc running those runs in the Maranello sim gives Ferrari's software engineers real driver input data across the full range of conditions they expect to face in Florida. The Monza laps prove the code works on a real car with real physics. The simulator sessions prove it works across the full range of demands that a race weekend will bring. The stakes at Miami go beyond a single race result. Ferrari sits second in the team standings behind Mercedes with 3 podiums in 3 races. The SF26 has the best race starts on the grid, cornering speed that matches or beats anything out there, and a chassis that rival teams have openly praised. The straight line gap is the single thing stopping a win. If the new energy management software gets back even half of the 4/10 Hamilton lost on a single straight at Suzuka, the SF26 goes from a car that can only win on corner-heavy tracks to a car that can fight anywhere on the calendar. Ferrari also carries a roughly 25 to 30 horsepower gap to Mercedes on the engine side. That is a separate hardware problem being handled through the ADUO upgrade path, with clearance possibly coming from the Canadian Grand Prix onward. The software fix is the bridge. It buys Ferrari time to compete while the hardware upgrade takes shape. If the software closes the power delivery gap, the engine gap becomes manageable rather than race deciding. Hamilton would no longer coast into braking zones wondering where the power went. He would arrive at full speed, with the battery still delivering, and the gap to Mercedes on the timing screen would shrink on every straight. And when the ADUO hardware upgrade finally arrives, Ferrari would have both the software and the engine power working together for the first time. A pairing that would create a very different title picture for the second half of the season. Every team on the grid is learning this lesson. The 2026 rules have moved the speed battle from horsepower to software. Honda is dealing with bad battery shaking at Aston Martin that has limited Alonso to 25 laps and Stroll to 15 during race weekends, with the team openly admitting the shaking could force cars to retire. McLaren has power delivery gains that even Hamilton has pointed out, noting they seem to have less derating at the end of the straights. Mercedes is the standard, and the FIA plans to close a compression ratio trick they have been using with a new engine temperature check from June 1st. The engine that makes the most raw power is not always the engine that delivers the most speed on track. The engine with the smartest power delivery software is, and that is why Ferrari's answer to Suzuka is new code, not new hardware. Ferrari's answer is not a new engine, not yet. It is new code, written with input from the driver who found the flaw, tested in the simulator, where he ran every scenario the engineers could not fully model on paper, confirmed on a real track at Monza, where the power delivery demands are the toughest on the calendar. Hamilton found the problem. He sat in the engineering meeting, he drove the simulator sessions, he tested the fix at Monza. And in 7 days, he finds out whether the software he helped build holds when the lights go out in Florida. If it does, the gap between what the SF26 promises in the corners and what it delivers on the straights finally closes. And a car that already has the best chassis on the grid gets the software to match. Miami answers that question on May 3rd, and that video will be on your screen the moment it happens.